Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Well, hello. You're listening to I Am Home, the podcast for all things home life. I'm Tyler Weiskup, joined by my co-host who just is a hoot. She totally quacks me up. People are raving about her. It's Becca Sudbeck.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Becca. And we're also joined by our other co-host. She's just a real tweetheart. Hilary Waltermath. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Hilary. So all month long, we've been prepping you for back to campus season. Today's episode is dedicated to the empty nest. So that's why I've got all of my fun bird puns.
Got it.
There's a million of them. This, I think it's going to be the perfect episode for parents sending kids off to the college. We've got a lot to talk about around figuring out this next phase of your life and what you can do with your space and your free time and all that kind of stuff. And we've got a special guest that we've brought back from, it's been probably almost about a year since we've had him on. So excited to get to that here in a second. But before we do, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast. And that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. Learn more at nfm.com. And we're thrilled to bring back our special guest, Scott Baker. Welcome. So overdue.
Well, I'm happy to be back. And now that I know the theme is the empty nest, you tried to find the old guy that works over at the store. So here I am. Maybe I can tell you something and give some experience.
Yeah, you're like a wizened owl just returning from the roost out there. No.
More bird puns. Here we go. Okay.
No, a young sparrow, I think still, Scott. So just a reminder, if you haven't been following the podcast recently, Scott is NFM's Omaha store director, and I would call him sidekick to Sarah, his lovely wife, who they just celebrated an anniversary. So shout out to her. We've had her on the podcast a few times, and together they make this ultimate, really DIY furniture flipper, just like every Renaissance man style. They know how to do all of the home things and have a beautiful home. We've been there and I've talked about it on the podcast before. So that's kind of a little background. Anything, Scott, that you'd add to that?
No. Our anniversary was yesterday. It was our 7th year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were married on 7/17/17.
Oh my gosh.
And we eloped to Des Moines and got married. So 7 sort of was a thing. So we had a good day
And
yesterday.
you took a 7-hour bike ride yesterday.
We did.
Yes.
So it was fun.
Well, congratulations. And you're on to talk about empty nesting. You have some personal experience with this, as well as a lot of friends and family probably that have been in this life stage recently and have a lot of education to kind of walk us through. So I think you're going to be a perfect guide for us.
Happy to be perfect.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your empty nest and how you kind of got there. Scott, I'm not sure that I know too much about your kiddos. I know that you have a 35-year-old.
Yes, so I have 3 in there,
Okay.
all 32 to 35.
Okay.
And, we're a blended family. Sarah and I have been married
Yeah.
just, 7 years.
Yeah.
And so my daughter Pauline lives here in town. And one set of kids, they are in Milwaukee and the other is in Colorado Springs. He's in the military. And so one daughter is still here in town, but the others are away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're empty nesters. It's just her and I.
Yeah.
And it's really been interesting. And I have a few friends that their kids, they went to college. And all of a sudden they look up and there's no school planning and there's no sports games or there's no, I want to go here or there. And they call you and like, hey, we don't have anything to do today. You guys got any ideas, And so we generally do, but I think it's been interesting for them to sort of be, 5 or 6 years behind me in that.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you can think back to when you sent the kid off to college. At that time, were you more excited or nervous about that kind of coming phase of your life?
Really pretty excited. You spend a lot of time taking care of your kids. I mean, it really becomes this thing that you do, and you spend, most of your time working on it. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, I got this point in my world. I'm just going to go out and do whatever I want. And so, I started thinking about that in advance. You don't want to be the person that's like, the day is here, and you go,
Now what?
Now what?
I
Yeah.
didn't plan for this. So,
Mhm.
I immediately started thinking about where will I live. I lived way out in Millard and then in more of a midtown area. And I just thought, I don't need to live out here. It's a longer commute, and, you move out there for a whole bunch of different reasons, but those reasons just went to college.
Mhm.
So, for me, I moved to downtown and rented a loft apartment to kind of see what that was about. And, real walkable, and you could go out in the evenings and restaurants, or maybe get a cocktail or
Well,
two.
that's such a big jump from what you were doing. And before we jumped on the mic, you were talking about like the memories of the house and like being able to get into that headspace of like making that decision. I know that
Yeah.
you were kind of planning for it, but were you planning for that transition like as it was happening, or did you kind of come to that realization maybe like afterwards? I'm curious, like in that headspace, making that decision, like
Yeah.
what emotionally were you thinking about during that time frame?
I think for me, about a year out, you started thinking, okay, I'm going to be needing something else to do, and what do I want that to be? Because as you said, we've been living in this house for all these years, and I have
Mowing the yard and
yeah,
like,
all that,
Yeah.
and shoveling the snow, and
Mhm.
so then I'm living in the fifth floor of this apartment over the winter, and I'm looking out, and there's some dude down there doing the snow. I'm like, "Ooh, that looks terrible." So I'm happy to be up here. But I have a friend that all of his kids move out of the house, and he's talking to his wife. It's like, hey, maybe we could do what Baker did. And then she starts thinking about the Christmas trees and all the family things that have gone on there, and the birthday parties and
Yeah.
graduation parties and all the rest of that, and can be people can really be attached to those
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And they sort of equate that with the home. And I kind of get that, but there's two people, and you got a 5 or 6 bedroom house, and what are you going to do with all that? Wander around the empty hallways. So for me, it wasn't a big leap.
It's
But
a pretty
I think,
practical decision.
yeah, but I think some people can really be attached to the home and might have a hard time
Yeah.
leaving it. And if you downsize, you're going to get rid of a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Yep.
And you can't take it with you.
Mhm.
And I ended up with a storage garage full of junk for, I don't know, like 6 years.
Ooh.
And then I moved into, we built a house downtown. I moved into it. I took all that junk and took it to this home.
Right. You're like, I haven't used this in 6 years or
Yeah.
needed this in 6 years, so I can get rid of it, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm thinking, I paid $120 a month for
Right.
this storage garage, only to throw it away. So, you really have to think through that. But,
Yeah.
the house is something, and the memories are wonderful. But, make some new memories if you can part with it. I think for a lot of people, it might be parting with the stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever worry or like consider or wonder like what happens when they get out of college and they get married and they have families and you've since downsized and now you don't have room for them?
That
Is that
yeah,
on purpose?
That's part of the plan.
Okay,
Right there.
right? I mean, if some people are like, my kids aren't moving back in with me.
So,
We
where
don't have room.
where my apartment was right across the street was a Holiday Inn and Fairfield
Oh,
Inn.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Look how
strategic.
Look how
Uh-huh.
handy that is. Oh, it's
Yeah.
right over there, and they got a pool.
Smart.
The apartment that I had, it had a couple of bedrooms. So you could have guests, and that was nice. And our house now is different than that also. But you sort of have to live, in my mind, for that 95% of the time. The 5%
makes
of the
sense.
time that someone can visit,
Right.
Right.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally a hotel across the street. Everybody will be more comfortable
Mhm.
anyway.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's pretty strategic and rather brilliant on your part.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
very, very
Right.
realistic. Even thinking about like our the short stint in Texas, I was like, oh, I have to have room for people to visit. I think people visited twice,
Right.
you know, and like all reality,
Yep.
it's such a short window of time in the
Yep.
grand scheme that it's not worth it.
Yeah, you plan your life around the 5%.
Yeah.
You just probably shouldn't. I mean, you can. You just probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. Like, do you absolutely need to have a
Mhm.
dedicated guest room forever and all time? And then people stay with you once a year, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of like some people, I have to have a home office.
Yep.
Mine's the island in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't use it that much. I
Right.
don't want a whole room for that. You don't
Yeah.
need all that space. But if you had a home office at your house, you had a place for your kids to do their homework,
Mhm.
and now all of a sudden you're leaving and you
Mhm.
think, I don't have any place for my office furniture.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you need it?
Right.
Yeah, sure.
You could put it in storage for 5 years.
Mhm.
So it did literally, I mean, let's talk practically the nuts and bolts. Like that was what you did for 6 years instead of like doing like decluttering and like sending it off to the kids. You just were like, we're moving, we're making this decision. So we're going to stick it here in the storage. You
Crammed
did
it in a storage garage.
everything went in there.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it was packed.
And did the kids ever say like, where did my art project go from? Like,
There's still some boxes in my basement. They
Okay.
didn't go to the
Uh-huh.
junk of the kids' stuff
Uh-huh.
from grade school. And I just think, no one's ever going to look at
Right.
this.
Yeah,
Right?
you can throw it away.
Yeah.
I hate when my mom sneaks old stuff over to my house. I'm like, I don't want that. Just throw it away.
Yeah.
I am not attached to any of that stuff.
Yeah, my mom, I've been saving this for 50
Yeah.
years for you.
Like, just don't even bring it over.
Yeah, she like goes out the door, you throw it in the trash. I feel terrible about
100%.
myself.
well,
I do that.
Scott, the other thing you were talking about was like the lifestyle that you were wanting at making that decision. Can talk to me a little bit about like, I mean, because you could have just gone to another smaller house, but you decided like a downtown loft style apartment. Kind of walk us through the decision to kind of make that transition.
You know, I think everybody should live downtown at least once in your lifetime. Just live downtown where you can walk within a mile. You can walk to 500 things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I'm making a change. So let's make a change. Let's really make a change. And, you know, to move to another subdivision near where I was, like, that's the same. It's the same thing I was doing. If I'm going to make a change, and, you know, I didn't go downtown and buy my own condo. I got an apartment to really think about, do I like this? And, you know, it didn't take very long till I realized that it was great. And, you know, the commute is fast from downtown to NFM here in Omaha. It's 15 minutes. And where I used to live, it was really long. Now, when I lived in Midtown, it was about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I did like
commute
that.
is great.
It's just boom right over the
That's
hill.
a good one.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I added a little bit of time, but, you know, even in the Midtown area, you know, there wasn't a lot of stuff I could walk to and kind of see.
Yep.
And I like to run in the mornings, and running downtown. It's like a ghost town down there at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody down there. And
Oh, wow.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
And the area that I lived in, which was north downtown, was really kind of gritty. And I liked that. I thought this will be interesting certainly from where I used to live. And now it's like the nicest part of downtown. They've redone the whole thing. So I had to move out. But, you know, you got this change looking you in the face. So make one.
Yeah.
Really make one. And if you hate it, it's just an apartment. You're there for a year and go do something else. And you don't even have to move the storage garage.
Well, to your point about like making new memories too, it's like that. It's along the lines of that idea of like vacation in your own hometown. You know, like I imagine you experienced so many new places and things in your time downtown that you hadn't really done before.
Everything was new.
Yeah.
You know, you used to think, clear downtown, but when you're living downtown, there's the park, and, you know, the baseball park was across the street, and the Omaha Design Center was right downstairs. So they'd have Fashion Week. So, you know, we'd stand on the 5th floor patio and watch all the people coming in, and, you know, we were like Joan Rivers and her daughter, you know, like critiquing everybody's clothes, like, oh, that's way too tight, or you shouldn't. I hate that color. You know, we hear the stuff there, you know, just
Uh-huh.
just her and I up there, and it was
Yeah,
fun. And
yeah.
so it's you're right. It's like a vacation in your own hometown, and
Mhm.
you see a lot of new things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, talk to us about so you were downsizing. You were talking about like different pieces of furniture that couldn't make the move potentially, that kind of thing. What did you end up doing when it came to like outfitting that space? What did you spend a lot of extra time and care and kind of like getting it to, I don't know, what your cool empty nesting bachelor pad and then in transition? Like what was kind of the thought process from like outfitting the area that you were moving into?
I kind of, drug in the big stuff that you need. You need a sofa and you need a couple of chairs and, a TV stand or whatever it is. And, you can always go down to the storage garage and, dig out more
Mhm.
if you want or take stuff back. So I hate advocating for a storage garage, but if you get rid of all your stuff, at least have it for a little while. I kept mine way too long, way too long.
Uh-huh.
But, I just sort of filled in the stuff that was the big pieces
Yeah.
that I thought I would need, and kind of culled out things and added things over time. And, it probably never looked really good until Sarah moved in with me. And then it kind of really came together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, obviously you were focusing on the experience of the move itself and making that transition over time. It wasn't something that you're just going to do overnight.
Yeah. I mean, move in, get comfortable, see some new things, do a few things, find out what you like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and took a little time, but you won't find yourself just sitting on the sofa with like nothing to do.
Mhm.
Just go outside.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, that's like, you put yourself in a position to have things to do like at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Which seems like a really smart idea if you are all of a sudden faced with a bunch of extra time that you didn't have beforehand. You don't have to work too hard to find something to do.
You're right, because it's this, all of a sudden you got all this extra time.
Mhm.
Right.
So if you have a bunch of new things to do, you can really use up that time just kind of seeing what is in your area.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about that. Like obviously walking to a show, to like living downtown, there's plenty of things to go do. And that helped kind of maybe you figure out a little bit about like, what do you want to spend your time doing in this phase of your life? Is that kind of the strategy that you took, or did you kind of have in your head, here's the hobbies and things that I'm going to really devote time to, or what did that process look like
So
early into that move?
one of the really tricky things is that I'm a car person.
Mhm.
I like to fix old cars and redo old cars. And I had a couple,
Mm-hmm.
which I got rid of because I didn't have a place to keep them.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was this hobby that I loved, and I had, all this equipment all in the storage garage. So that was a real change. But, those things can burn time and money.
Mhm.
And it was that Dave Ramsey said, if you want to be poor all your life, just invest it in cars. Well,
Yeah.
I was working on that. So, so you go from doing this thing you've been doing all the time and just trying new things and seeing what you like. And sometimes it's just out for a walk and seeing what the people are doing downtown. You can go to all the shows at all the different places, and there's places to get a drink. And we're not restaurant people. We don't do a good job at supporting those people downtown, but we have cocktailed in many places. So, it takes some time to kind of find out what you like to do.
Were you like a cocktail person before, like during the kid time frame?
You know what? When you've got 3 kids at home, you need cocktails. You definitely need cocktailing. So yes, there's it's always been a part of my world. Yes.
Okay, just broaden your
Palate
options
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you live way out west, it's kind of limited where you're going to get a cocktail and what it's like. So you go, whether it's to the old market or North Downtown or a little Bohemia or wherever you want to go. Every place is kind of a little bit different, but for me, anything within 3 miles is walkable. So you're just out wandering about and walking around and seeing what's going on. And there's a lot to the city. And when I'm talking about walking, I'm talking every street, every alley.
Mhm.
What's down there? And sometimes you go down the alley and go, hate what's down here. I'm not going to do this again. But, there's a lot to see and a lot to do, more than you would think at first glance.
Did you have any false starts? Was there any like new hobby or passion or thing that you wanted to start that you got into, and then you're like, no, I'm not going to do stand-up comedy. That's not my thing. I can't believe I signed up for this class.
I don't think so. I kind of miss some of the old stuff, and repurposing furniture or repairing things, making things, cars. I really miss that. But as far as new things, I've always liked to cycle, but I cycled generally by myself, whether it's mountain biking or road biking. And then I had this jalopy of an old tandem bike, and Sarah was like, "No, that's not for me. That's dumb." And then we started riding a little bit, and that was really the thing. Then we bought a little better one, and then we have the bike we have now.
Sounds like a Cadillac, because it's
Right.
fat tire.
It's this fat tire tandem bike with a power engine on it. And it's like a school bus, right? But I really learned to love to cycle, and there's a lot of trails downtown. You can pick up the trails by the river on both sides, and so we really kind of embraced that. And the bike's about to break 6,000 miles on the thing.
Wow.
So we really got into that a lot, and we've continued with that. But I can't think of anything that I started. I try to think through I kind of know. I'm in 58. I kind of get who I am and what I'm going to do, and it certainly wouldn't be stand-up comedy. Like, not one person left. I guess I'm leaving and never showing my face again.
Well, did you ever, or how long did it take, I guess, before you had like moved into this apartment where you're like, yes, this is for us? Or was there any point where you're like, maybe this wasn't the right move? Or how long till you felt like settled and felt comfortable with your decision?
It was kind of right away, because it was so refreshing and so different. And I think to the point where, we said, we could have moved to a different house out west or where, and that may have been different, but it was such a departure from what I had ever done. It was exciting right from the get-go. And the apartment was nice, and it had, the parking garage underneath was like heated.
Ooh.
Yeah, you go down there in the middle of winter, it's like 55 degrees, you start your car, the heater works right away. I mean, so we loved all that kind of stuff. But, I was pretty comfortable in there right away. And the apartment didn't look like I wanted to right away, but I was so interested in just getting out and living and just doing stuff that I didn't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember a coworker had told me that, like, when I was moving back to Omaha from Texas, they're like, you should live downtown. Like, Scott Baker has a really cool place down there. And I was like, so in my mind, you've been this person that lives in like downtown Omaha, and that's just like your vibe and your aura. So it's like crazy to me to think that you had like suburban life before that you've just embraced it so much.
I lived in a circle with like 8 other houses, and I could see the grade school down the street. It was like absolute suburbia out there. And, it's what you do. And kids riding their bikes out there. And, after a long time, you think, kind of sick of that. And I've got a shot to do something else. So I will.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm not always been the downtown person.
Yeah. It surprises me, because I would have to hear it from you that that's not the way it's been for you. So
yeah, I've been downtown since 2014, I think.
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been down there 10 years. So, I mean, it's really my home now. And, I used to get off the interstate at Cumming Street. And I thought, I've never been on this street. Now I've been on this street every day. I mean, it was a real interesting change.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about this final change from the apartment to the house that you built. What really inspired the decision? Because, I mean, you're having this life where you're able to kind of just walk to everything, and you're in the Bohemia area now, which is Little Bohemia area, which is still connected to a lot of different places, but it's a bit different from being able to walk down to directly to like the center of everything. So talk to us a little bit about that. What was the decision there? I know we've talked a little bit about some of these other passions that you have in the cars and the furniture flipping that both of you like to do. Was that kind of the big driver, or what? How'd you get there?
When you have an apartment, you can only do so many things to it to make it yours. And it's kind of designed for the masses. And so we started thinking we wanted to repurpose an old building. And repurposing an old building is unbelievably expensive because the thing is falling down. And just to make it nice, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So then I thought, well, why don't we find an empty lot and just build something? And finding an empty lot in the downtown area, not that easy.
I would imagine that's pretty difficult too.
Yeah, but we found one, and we drew up some plans and had an architect do it, and built this place. And it's funky and it's different. And you've been there. It's not like a normal house, and it's perfect for us.
Yeah.
And we really built it without the consideration of what it's worth when we resell it. That won't be my problem. That'll be the kids' problem. And since they paid nothing for it, anything they'll be fine. But we built exactly what we wanted. It has a 5-car garage down underneath the house, and it's got an alley, so you can come in from the alley, and the front of the house is like an old storefront. But we just wanted to do whatever we wanted. We only needed 1 bedroom. It has 2 upstairs, but we only needed 1, and we almost only did 1. And it's just build what you want, do exactly what you want. Don't worry about the resale. Don't worry about who else might like it. It's yours. You live there. It's great, and it's been great.
Yeah. And go.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't have children, so it's making an assumption here, but from friends and family that do, like, your life is centered around other people for a good portion of their lives and your lives. And so you've now reached this point where you're doing things for you. And I just find that really refreshing, I guess, that you're putting yourselves first.
Yeah. And it also, when your kids move out and they're out doing something, is right around the time your parents needed a little help too. So my parents live maybe 5 miles or 7 miles away. And so, my dad's like, hey, furnace isn't working. You think you could come and look at it? Or I usually stop by on the weekend days, say, hey, what are you guys doing? My dad, well, I got this thing going on out in the garage. Could you take a look? Okay. I'm trying to make sure that we spend some of our time, with our parents, and Sarah's dad lives down in Kansas City area. So we're headed there this weekend. So you lose some responsibility taking care of the young, and then you just put it into your parents, which is nice, when you consider how much time they invested in us, to kind of help them when they need it has been nice.
Yeah.
It's a good kind of full circle moment, it feels like.
Yeah.
Just being able to, seamlessly transition from those things. You still have, obviously, this great time to be able to spend on all the things that you enjoy, but now you get to spend time with your parents too, your family that way. So cool.
My dad's 81. My mom's 81 also. They're born like 9 days apart. But early in the year, he lost his sister, and she lived down south of Dallas. So my dad can't take an airplane. He's too high strung. So that's not happening. So he wanted to go to the funeral. Well, I had the flexibility. No problem, Dad. I'll, jumped in the Subaru, and we drove down there, 800 or 900 miles down there. And, we spent 3 or 4 days together, but I had, the flexibility, and, of course, with my job, it's always real flexible, which is, awesome. But to do those kinds of things, you have time, but the time you gain with your kids moving out, if you do it right, you'll invest them in the generation before you.
Yeah.
And we have some older neighbors, and usually when we cook dinner, we try to make a little extra and take them some dinner, and we've really kind of enjoyed doing that too.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Well, Scott, any final advice then? I feel like we've gotten a lot out of just chatting, but any final advice or words of wisdom that you'd send anyone with if they're getting into this point in their life empty nesting?
Well, if you're going to make a change, you're about to get a bunch of extra time. And really the question is, do you want to sit in front of the television and waste it away? You only get so much time, and whether you're rich or whether you're poor, you don't get more time,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a finite time you're
Mhm.
getting, and it's doesn't carry over.
Mm-hmm.
So every day is sort of important. And what do you want to do with it? And for me, I want to do something. And we've been traveling a lot, so go travel. And if you going to make a change the way you live, so make one,
Mhm.
like a real one. Go make a change, and don't be afraid to do that. And you might be surprised, like really surprised, what happens to you. So if you're about to make change, make it
Go all
really
in.
count.
Yeah.
Go all in and do it.
Mhm. I love
Wise
that.
words.
Yeah.
Wise words. Okay. Well, thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure having you back. And of course, I want to thank Hilary and Becca, our co-producers, Scott and Ann, and you, listeners. We appreciate you, and we want to hear from you too. We're still accepting listener questions to feature on the show. So check out our new website, nfm.com/podcast, to submit questions, photos, voice memos, whatever you've got. Essentially, we're offering free advice. So hit us up again. That URL, nfm.com/podcasts. And finally, remember, home life is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Waltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.